Salvage Hunters is more than just a show about uncovering dust-covered relics and transforming them into prized possessions. It is a journey that bridges the past, present, and future, preserving history with patience, passion, an eye for detail, and remarkable skill. At the heart of this journey is its star, Drew Pritchard, who embodies the expertise and dedication that make the show extraordinary. However, beyond the bright lights of television, there lies a side to Drew's story that remains unseen. This is a story not of antiques, but of heartbreak, personal struggles, and hard-learned lessons, ones that cut deeper than any failed bargain. So, take a seat as we peel back the layers of Drew Pritchard's life and uncover the man behind the legend. For years, Drew has been the face of Salvage Hunters, a real-life Indiana Jones and modern-day treasure hunter with an uncanny ability to see value where others see rust. But where did this passion begin? What shaped his love for breathing life back into the forgotten? To understand his journey, we must travel back to the charming town of Conwy, North Wales, where Drew grew up surrounded by stories of the past. While other kids spent their days playing football, exploring parks, or reading comic books, Drew was already drawn to the allure of history, setting the stage for the extraordinary career that lay ahead. From a young age, Drew found fascination in what others discarded. While most kids played with toys or sports, he buried his nose in old junkyards, captivated by forgotten objects. He wasn't a typical boy, he loved tinkering, fixing an old bike here, repurposing a piece of scrap metal there. His curiosity was insatiable, constantly asking questions, a trait that planted the seeds of his lifelong passion for history and craftsmanship. Fast forward to the late 1980s, and Drew landed a job working for a local stained glass conservator. This was where he sharpened his eye for detail and learned the true value of craftsmanship. But for him, it was never just about fixing glass, it was about preserving the stories behind it. Here's where Drew's journey takes an interesting turn. Many would have settled into a single trade, content with a stable career in stained glass restoration. But Drew wasn't one to stay in his comfort zone. His dreams stretched beyond restoring church windows and antique glasswork. During this time, he crossed paths with some of the most experienced antique dealers in North Wales, immersing himself in a community full of colourful characters. It was here that his passion for antiques truly took flight, setting the stage for the remarkable career ahead. Drew found himself surrounded by seasoned professionals, people who could walk into a dusty barn and emerge with treasures others had overlooked. These experts quickly recognized that he was more than just another man with a toolbox. He had a keen eye for detail, a deep love for history, and, most importantly, an insatiable hunger to learn. One of the most influential figures in Drew's early career was a well-known North Wales antique dealer named Clive. With a remarkable ability to transform even the most ordinary finds into highly sought-after pieces, Clive became an unofficial mentor to Drew. In 1990, he took Drew to his first major antique fair in Newark, Nottinghamshire, a mecca for antique enthusiasts. Drew later described the experience as a turning point, calling it a playground where every corner held something incredible to discover. But he wasn't just there to observe, he jumped in head first. Starting small, he bought affordable pieces, an old weather vane here, a rustic table there, flipping them for a profit under Clive's guidance. It was through Clive that Drew learned the art of negotiation, how to spot authentic pieces in a market full of reproductions, and most importantly, how to see value where others saw junk. Another pivotal connection in Drew's journey was Gerald, a flamboyant dealer specializing in large-scale architectural salvage. Grand fireplaces, cast-iron gates, and stone ornaments from stately homes were Gerald's expertise, and Drew was fascinated by the sheer magnitude of his work. Through Gerald, he got his first major break into architectural salvage in 1992. He was invited to take part in dismantling and selling parts of a Victorian greenhouse from a country estate, an experience he fully embraced. It wasn't just about salvaging materials, it was about understanding the history behind them, stories that he would later use to captivate buyers. These relationships significantly broadened Drew's knowledge of the antique world and opened doors to new opportunities. By the mid-1990s, he was no longer just the stained glass guy. He was building a reputation as a versatile dealer, handling everything from small decorative pieces to massive architectural salvages. Looking back, Drew often credits mentors like Clive and Gerald for shaping his career. Without their guidance, his path into the world of antiques might have been very different. "I wouldn't have had the courage to take risks or the knowledge to spot diamonds in the rough," Drew once admitted in an interview. Despite the guidance he received, he quickly learned that every journey comes with its challenges. And his was no exception. By the late 2000s, Drew had already established himself as a leading figure in the world of antiques and salvaging. His ability to spot hidden treasures was unmatched, and his reputation for fair deals and captivating storytelling made him one of the most approachable experts in the industry. But his life was about to take an unexpected turn. Around 2010, a television production company took notice of him. They weren't just searching for an antique dealer, they wanted a personality, someone who could bring the world of salvage to life for viewers. Drew had the charm, the passion, and the expertise to make antiques exciting. But here's the thing, he wasn't your typical TV star. He wasn't polished, scripted, or media trained. He was raw, unfiltered, and completely himself. That wasn't the kind of persona that usually fit the TV mold. Still, in 2011, producers pitched an idea, a show following Drew as he traveled across the UK, hunting for antiques. The concept was simple: viewers would get a behind-the-scenes look at the world of salvaging, from dusty barns to grand estates, witnessing how forgotten relics were transformed into treasures. At first, Drew wasn't sure. But with a little persuasion, he decided to take the leap. That decision would change everything. When Salvage Hunters premiered on Quest in November 2011, it became an instant hit. Drew's personality shone through, the enthusiasm in his voice when he found something special, his dry humor, and the way he could see beauty in even the most battered objects. He made the show about more than just antiques, he made it about the stories those antiques carried. What set Salvage Hunters apart was how real it felt. Drew wasn't playing a character, he was himself. Viewers connected with that authenticity. If a deal went wrong, he didn't sugarcoat it. If he found something he loved, the excitement was written all over his face. And, of course, his quick-witted banter with his team, especially his driver and sidekick, John T., added to the show's charm. It turned out that Drew's unfiltered nature was exactly what made the show work. He wasn't just another antique dealer, he was someone people could relate to, and that made all the difference. The chemistry between Drew and his team added an undeniable charm to Salvage Hunters. While Drew Pritchard's sharp eye and quick wit formed the backbone of the show, it was his crew who brought extra personality, humor, and camaraderie to every episode. Let's be honest, could you imagine Drew traveling solo, without his trusted team to share in the laughs, banter, and occasional eye rolls? Not a chance. First up, there's John T., better known to fans as T. But he wasn't just Drew's driver, he was his partner in crime, sounding bored, and, at times, the voice of reason when Drew got a little too carried away. With his laid-back demeanor and dry humor, T was the perfect counterbalance to Drew's boundless enthusiasm. Remember those moments when Drew would get overly excited about something seemingly mundane, like a rusty weather vane? T would give him that classic side-eye and deadpan, "Really, Drew? This is what's got you hyped today?" But beneath the playful ribbing was a deep respect for Drew's vision. One of T's standout qualities was his ability to read people. While Drew focused on the antiques, T often picked up on the mood of the seller or the atmosphere of the deal. It was a dynamic that worked like magic. Drew brought the charm, and T kept things grounded. Then there was Gavin, the restoration expert. If Drew was the visionary, Gavin was the magician who brought that vision to life. His ability to take something battered and broken and turn it into a masterpiece was nothing short of remarkable. Meticulous, patient, and passionate about his craft, Gavin worked like an artist, carefully restoring pieces to their former glory. Drew trusted his skills implicitly, knowing that no matter how dilapidated an item seemed, Gavin could breathe new life into it. One unforgettable moment was when Drew brought back a worn-out 19th-century relic, and Gavin transformed it into something extraordinary. Together, this team made Salvage Hunters more than just a show about antiques. It became a journey filled with humor, expertise, and an undeniable bond between friends who truly loved what they did. One of the most memorable examples of Gavin's magic was the restoration of a battered French mirror. Drew was thrilled with the find, but in all honesty, the mirror looked like it had survived a hurricane. Gavin, unfazed as always, got to work meticulously restoring it to its former glory. When Drew finally saw the finished piece, his face lit up like a kid on Christmas morning. That was the kind of skill and dedication Gavin brought to the team, turning Drew's discoveries into stunning, show-stopping treasures. And then there was Rebecca Pritchard, Drew's ex-wife and the show's resident research and valuation expert. Her role was crucial. While Drew scoured the country for antiques, Rebecca was the one who dug into their history, uncovering the fascinating stories behind them. Her insights added a rich depth to Salvage Hunters, giving viewers a real understanding of the significance of each piece. She also played a key role in evaluating whether Drew's deals were as good as he hoped, sometimes delivering hard truths when a purchase didn't quite measure up. The dynamic between Drew and Rebecca was undeniably compelling. Their history as a married couple added another layer to their interactions, and while they had already parted ways before the show began, working together under the public eye wasn't always easy. Fame changes things, and fast. While Salvage Hunters brought Drew professional success, his personal life faced its fair share of challenges. Being a public figure meant increased scrutiny, and Drew's straightforward nature, which fans loved, sometimes ruffled feathers within the industry. Fame also took its toll on relationships. Despite their separation, Drew and Rebecca remained professional and committed to their shared passion for antiques, but that didn't mean it was always smooth sailing. In interviews, Drew has openly admitted that balancing fame, work, and personal life has been one of the biggest challenges of his career. While the show thrived, behind the scenes, things weren't always as seamless as they appeared on screen. Despite the challenges he faced, Drew continued to juggle the demanding roles of TV star, business owner, constant traveler, and father, all while trying to maintain some semblance of a personal life. It was exhausting, but his passion for antiques never wavered. However, by the mid-2010s, the pressures of his career weren't the only thing weighing on him. He was also navigating a highly publicized separation from Rebecca, his wife of many years and Salvage Hunters co-star. Breakups are difficult enough, but when they unfold under public scrutiny, the stress reaches another level entirely. Drew and Rebecca had built more than just a marriage, they had created a thriving business and a beloved television show together. Their separation, finalized around 2017, wasn't just a personal loss, it was also a professional challenge. Despite everything, they continued to work together, demonstrating remarkable professionalism and mutual respect on screen. But behind the scenes, the strain was undeniable. Drew later admitted in an interview that maintaining that balance was one of the hardest things he'd ever done. And it wasn't just about adjusting to life without Rebecca. Drew had to navigate the complexities of being a single dad while overseeing a business that was growing rapidly thanks to the show's success. Imagine crisscrossing the UK and Europe filming episodes, managing a busy workshop, negotiating deals, and still trying to be present for your family. It was the kind of relentless schedule that could wear down even the most energetic person. Let's be real, no matter how talented or driven you are, you can't do it all alone. Drew Pritchard's success wasn't just about his keen eye for antiques, it was also about the people around him, the team that helped keep everything moving forward, even when life threw its toughest challenges his way. Drew's journey wasn't just about his own determination, it was also about the people who stood by him. That's why losing key collaborators, like John T., hit him hard. There was no dramatic fallout, sometimes life simply takes people in different directions. Still, John T.'s departure left a noticeable gap. Drew had to adjust to working without the man who had been by his side for so many of his biggest finds, and fans felt the absence too. Losing John T. wasn't just a personal loss, it was a professional challenge. The show had to evolve, and so did Drew's team. Finding that same chemistry with someone new wasn't easy, especially when viewers had grown to love their dynamic duo. But Drew pressed on, proving that while change is difficult, it's also an opportunity for growth. However, his challenges didn't stop there. You'd think a show like Salvage Hunters would be universally celebrated in the antique community, right? Not quite. While Drew built a massive fan base, his success also brought criticism from some corners of the industry. There were whispers. Some dealers claimed his television fame gave him an unfair advantage, while others didn't appreciate his blunt negotiation style. And then there were the controversies. Drew's candid nature, which made him so engaging on screen, didn't always sit well with everyone. In 2018, he faced backlash for comments he made about certain restoration practices. His intention was to champion authenticity and craftsmanship, but some saw his remarks as dismissive. Walking the line between being a TV personality and a respected industry expert is tricky, but Drew never shied away from criticism. He took it in stride, sometimes defending his choices, other times admitting he could have handled things differently. That's part of what makes him so relatable. Still, one thing was undeniable: Drew Pritchard was a pioneer in the salvage industry. His unique approach, seeing beauty in imperfection, respecting craftsmanship, and preserving history, became more than just a business model, it became a movement. He inspired a new generation of antique lovers, shifting the perception of old and forgotten items from junk to treasures with stories worth saving. Yet, despite all the success, what Drew valued most were his relationships. And as time passed, he faced losses that went beyond business or television. In 2020, Drew experienced a loss that would shake him to his core, one that no amount of professional success could ever make up for. The death of his beloved father, Richard Pritchard, was a devastating blow for Drew. Their bond had always been strong. Richard wasn't just a father, but a mentor and guiding force in Drew's life. He was the one who first sparked Drew's passion for antiques, shaping the very foundation of his career. Losing him, especially after the challenges of fame and his difficult separation from Rebecca, left Drew reeling. Imagine spending years building a life, achieving success, and finally gaining recognition, only to have the most important person in your life taken away. Suddenly, Drew was forced to confront the fragility of life. Everything he thought he understood, his own strength, his relentless drive, seemed to crumble. But in the midst of his grief, something shifted. He found a new appreciation for what truly mattered. Success no longer meant chasing the next deal or uncovering the next hidden gem. It was about cherishing the people who mattered most, nurturing the relationships that kept him grounded, and embracing the moments that shape a legacy. The hardest part wasn't just losing his father, it was the realization of how fleeting time really is. It's something many of us don't fully grasp until we experience loss firsthand. For Drew, it changed his perspective entirely. The constant hustle that once fueled his career no longer felt as important. Instead, he focused on what brought him genuine happiness: his family, his craft, and preserving the stories of the past. Navigating grief wasn't easy, and Drew has been open about the struggles he faced. In interviews, he has spoken candidly about the difficulty of moving forward after such a monumental loss. But despite the pain, he found a way to keep going, honoring his father's memory in the best way he knew how, by continuing to uncover treasures and preserve history, just as Richard had inspired him to do from the very beginning. That loss shaped him, not just as a person, but as a professional. It became a defining moment that deepened his sense of purpose, making his journey even more meaningful. Through tragedy, Drew found the strength to push forward, proving that even in the face of immense loss, there is still room to grow, to find joy, and to carry on a legacy. And that resilience is what makes his story so deeply inspiring.